Ride along, join the dance, let's sing the song. From island to island strong, with the host, we belong. Energy high, heart so bright, tune in, feel the light. Global love taking flight, every ride a sheer delight. Making waves across the seas, love and joy in the breeze. Ride along live if you please, bringing hope with such ease. Ride along, join the dance, let's sing the song. From island to island strong, with the host, we belong. Energy high, heart so bright, tune in, feel the light. Global love taking flight, every ride a sheer delight.
Looking for the ultimate island experience? Hop on the Ride Tuk Tuk Rum Punch Tour and explore Grenada like never before. Feel the tropical breeze, sip on authentic Caribbean rum punch, and cruise through Grenada's stunning scenery in our unique and fun tuk-tuks. It's the perfect blend of adventure and island flavor. Book your unforgettable tour now at ride.gd or call 473-422-1011. Don't just see Grenada, experience it with Ride Tuk Tuk Rum Punch Tours today.
It's time to do better. Beacon's Be Better Group Health Plan now offers new and improved options that make health insurance affordable for small to medium businesses. Good medical cover gives you a competitive edge and takes care of the people that take care of your business. Get a better plan to build a better business. Call Beacon or log on to beacon.co.tt for more info today.
Yeah. Welcome to the ride. Welcome to Tuesday on the ride. I know earlier when I posted the flyer, I had Tuesday, right? But I purposely did that because I wanted to see if you guys was paying attention. So for everybody that messaged me saying you have Tuesday, I just wanted to make sure that you guys paying attention. Okay? Nice. Welcome to the ride, guys. It is Tuesday, and I'm still in the Spice Isle of the Caribbean, Grenada. It is amazing. Bless. It's really nice. Guys, and on my way coming up to do the program today, I met a group of, I think it was 4 visitors to Grenada. And one of them came from Jamaica. I think one of them was from, but not Grenadians though, but they came to Grenada and they shout me out. And they say, make sure you shout us out because we are here in Grenada. They are a big fan of the program. They watch me every night, and all of them from different parts of the world. They're like the United Nations right there in St. George. And they say, we watch you religiously, right? And I'm sure RideAlong played a big role in getting you guys here to enjoy Christmas, the Christmas holiday, right? Nice. So big up everybody. I'm gonna get you guys' name and shout you guys out later. But big up all yourself to the folks I met in St. George's earlier today. Okay. Hey. All right. So a couple other things. Disclaimers. Well, not a disclaimer. Let me put it like this. The program actually airs at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right? So if you're in New York and if you're in Canada and the eastern part of the United States, we normally air at 6 p.m. But oftentimes what happens is that the time change, right? The time change. So our time changed. Your time did not change. So we kept our 6 p.m. time slot. So we're 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Although in Grenada, it is 7 p.m. But remember that, because the time in the fall, the time fall back. right? You fall back. So your 7 o'clock is New York, 6 o'clock. So right now, in people in New York that's watching us and in Canada, it is now 5:50 p.m. Right here in Grenada, it is 6:50 p.m. And my guest would say, one of my guests who is here on the program, he is far, like he's in someplace in Europe, and it's like 11:50, something like that. So the time difference. So I wanted to come out a little bit earlier because a lot of people message me say, I want to see the program. What happened to the program? And I have to remind them, no. We're at 7 p.m. Grenada time and 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right? Okay? All right. So I'm happy that I cleared that up. So just remember that. Put a reminder on your fridge, right? 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. Grenada. And if you're in Europe, you're in England, you're in France, you're in those places, folks in Ghana, I think it's about 12, it's about 11, 12 in Ghana right now. We have a lot of fans from Ghana watching us as well. So, right. So, guys, today it's a very interesting program. Very interesting program. We're going to crunch up some numbers with two of, I think, the most influential media personalities. Well, yes, one is a pollster, and you guys see him. He plays his role in analyzing scientifically the polls from around the region. He is Bayesian born. My good friend Peter Wickham. Before I knew him, I always knew about him, and I'm happy that he makes some time to chat with us on the program to crunch up some numbers. And interestingly enough, my other good friend Cam Jones, who has a national syndicated program, worldwide syndicated program, he did something pretty interesting, which I thought would have played a very important role in tonight's program. You see, Cam did some analyzing of some data, and a lot of people were talking about how we were able to show the dynamics at play right now in terms of Peter David, in terms of Emilyn Pierre, in terms of Dr. Keith Mitchell on the popularity. And we're going to analyze the numbers and see if that numbers are as a result of an incline or increase in the popularity or a decrease. I've often said that politics is a numbers game, right? So the folks in politics, they know this very well, or they should understand this very well. You need to add and multiply. So you need to increase your numbers, right? And whenever your numbers is subtracting or dividing, then you're not too much in a good place. So we're going to look at these numbers from an analytical point of view, very finite details we're going to pay attention to. So I'm happy to introduce, to bring on the program today, of course, Mr. Peter Wickham, who's going to be joining us shortly, and Cam Jones. Okay, so very interesting program, guys. Everybody share the program. Everybody share. Shauna share. Irene share. Lydia James, the governor, the mayor of RideAlong Live, share, please. Thank you so much. And when you share, I want you to don't just share, but do @followers. So @followers, so all your followers, your friends, will be able to get notification. I'll do that as well on my page. @followers. Boom. It's not working for me today. What happened? Okay, let me try again. Let me try again. I gotta add followers. I gotta get all my followers, all my friends over on my personal page to join in. @followers. Okay, there we go. Just did it. Okay, and share in a few groups because people get mad at me when I don't do that. All right. I know something in the background. Yeah. All right. Good. Okay, good. All right. So this program is brought to you by the kind compliments of Ride. Ride, and we have our island hopping tour. We're going to tell you more about this, but Ride, thank you so much for your continuous sponsorship and for the folks there at Ride. So, guys, help me to introduce to you Cam Jones, of course, no stranger to the Ride. Cam, how you doing? Mr. Peter Wickham, welcome to the program. How are you doing, gentlemen?
I am
Well,
fine.
let me bring down this audio here. Cam, yes.
I am fine, thanks. But I think I would allow Peter, your distinguished panelist and a very knowledgeable gentleman, to go first.
But
Okay.
I was actually giving way to my well, this is a local colleague because I'm assuming that you're on the ground in Grenada. But yeah, happy to be with you and good to be. This is my first time doing a program with Ken, so I appreciate meeting him in this capacity, and I think we're gonna have interesting discussions. So thanks for including me.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yes, and I think it's the second time for me being on a platform or a program with Peter Wickham.
Okay,
Right? So yeah, so it's the second time,
the
and
second
it's
time. Okay.
a gentleman with a bank of knowledge on not just Grenada but the region. It's always a pleasure to have a very frank conversation about what's happening in Grenada and beyond. So I'm happy to be here, and to your viewers and to the people who are looking forward to learn something, I think you're in the right place.
Absolutely, it's an opportunity. Let's start with Peter Wickham. Peter, let's look at the current administration, right? The Deacon Mitchell led NDC administration. Give us some of your critiques and how do you think that the government is performing right now?
Yeah. Well, I mean, before we start to analyze the performance of the Declan Mitchell administration, I think that we need to start with the assumption that most people did not expect a whole lot of the Declan Mitchell administration. I think the bar was set fairly low in terms of expectations. One of the good things with having a government where you're going with relatively low expectations is that it is easy to satisfy them. And I think that in many ways, this is what happened. We knew nothing of Dickon Mitchell before. He was in politics less than a year before he became prime minister. It's a phenomenal rise to power. The vast majority of Grenadians, and indeed probably Dickon Mitchell himself, didn't have an expectation that he would have won the election going in. And I think that he came out on top and he won. So certainly from the perspective that the expectations were very low, going in, he's done well. I was making a cricketing analogy and say that I didn't see any sixes and fours, many sixes and fours in terms of the administration. But what I've seen is a man that has stood up resolutely at the wicket and he's just batting. And even if he's poking singles in the final analysis, he's still there. You compare him with the previous leader of the NDC that won, which should have been Tillman Thomas. Tillman Thomas had a long history in politics going all the way back to the revolutionary era. And by now, Tillman Thomas was wobbling. Dickon Mitchell has not. Indeed, politically, Dickon Mitchell has grown in terms of his stature because, you know, he is seen now as a prime minister. He's been to CARICOM meetings and so on. He's developed a presence. And then the other part is that he has been able to capture support from the NNP. A leader that can take advantage of division within the NNP and capture someone to his party and grow the numbers in his party has done well because it means that there are people like the good lady Thomas who sees something in him that she wants to move towards, and she sees that even if it's for the rest of this parliamentary term, you know, that there's a benefit to associating with the NDC. So for all of those reasons, I think that he has exceeded expectations, certainly exceeded my expectation. He had to have exceeded everyone's expectations because none of us had any expectations because we knew nothing of the gentleman. So I would say that he's done well. And the question, the reality is that he's been able to exceed expectations because we didn't have any major expectations going in. The other point I was making before we started the show is that, you know, a plane flies on the basis of energy that it generates for itself. But anytime you see a plane moving faster than that energy would allow, it's because it's a tailwind. And in this instance, the tailwind is being created exclusively by the NNP. So any mistakes that he makes is more than accounted for by the fact that there's really nobody on the other side that has the ability to take him on in a real way because the NNP is distracted by his own internal stuff. So I would say that anything he's lost, the tailwind is pushing him, is propelling him, is what confusion in the NNP, which is tragic, frankly, but you know, it is what it is. Kem?
Kem?
Yeah.
Right. So
Kim, when answering the question, I want you to also respond to the fact that do you believe that the expectation of this administration was set low?
right. Let me start off by saying I can recall early in the game when I started off with Youth for Change, and many people will recall that I pulled a number of young people, brilliant chaps together, and decided to go out there even before NDC got organized and the things start getting hotter. I'm not going to say hot, but hotter. So months and months and months before, I was able to mobilize a number of young people, and we had Youth for Change, and we were going in the different communities and engaging the people, talking to the issues, speaking to the issues, and our numbers were growing significantly. All right. We also took the opportunity to engage a number of people, right, because we wanted change in the country. We wanted to move from Keith Mitchell and the NNP to something fresh, to something new. But what really concretized that direction was when we actually did a poll. And many of the people, they were not against NDC. No, 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 no. Many of the people, they just wanted something new, something fresh, something, something that will just wow them. And I decided with a group of other young people to engage those within NDC who ran twice and lost, and say to them, hey, we got to get the hell out. Go into the back room and allow fresh people, because that is what the electorate wanted. Freshness, newness, somebody who is not, tainted, who were not around for a long time and they come with all kind of baggage, RMC this and RMC that and all kind of nonsense. Revolution this and revolution that. So eventually that worked. We had dinner engagements with people like the Honorable Andy Williams now and other folks, the Richard Duncans, and just name it. We engaged them to say to them, this is what the people want. We got to work together and move this agenda forward. We engaged, now the most Honorable Deacon Mitchell and the young professionals. Many people don't know that, but we engaged them on a number of times, right, to get this thing going. Eventually, Deacon Mitchell, he was very organized. He came with a team. He came with resources. I mean, they were really set. And I could recall about 4 or 5 months before the election, I told these guys, we are not going to run this race to come second. Because in the mind of some people, they were running the race to come second with the whole preparation that, we're going to come second, but we're preparing for the next election or the next election. But I said, we're not going to run the race to come second, because on the ground, the people wanted something fresh, something new, and they gravitated towards that. The campaign was well organized. Huh? Let's face it, with resources, and that is so important. So while I agree with some aspects of what Peter said, I think that the people really went out in their numbers to vote for the most Honorable Deacon Mitchell here now and his team, and also to vote against Keith Mitchell and the NNP. So you had a mix. You had a mix of people going out there. And I mean, I was in the front line, so I kind of giving you a kind of, a feel as to what was on the ground then. But we must also look at what this team did when they came into power, as Peter said. This is not the same NDC of Tillman Thomas. It's a different NDC. And Uncle Tilly, I have real respect for him. And he's a good gentleman. But the people who he had within that whole party at the time, I mean, we had some people who were just saving the money and not spending the money back on the people. But you see, this NDC, they came into power. We saw $75.1 million spent on public officers who were marching in the streets for months and years for their pension and the gratuity under the NNP. The NNP never paid that. In fact, Keith Mitchell came forward and told us it would cost us somewhat $465 million to pay the pension and the gratuity, and annually it will cost the country $120 million. We eventually found out that was totally far from the truth. $75.1 million everybody got their pension and their gratuity, and they continue to get their pension. And we are talking about 500 people. We're talking about 500 people who are from families, homes with people, and they were positively impacted. We saw the NDC also spending $15.1 million towards small businesses. When they came into power because of COVID-19, they discovered that there was money there that the NNP did not spend on the people. And they decided, well, look, we are not going to loan the people this money. We're going to put it as a grant to support the small businesses to pick themselves back up, to employ more people, to expand, well, small and medium-sized businesses.
Yeah.
We also saw the TAMCC workers. They were protesting. They were fighting for the kakada, as we would say locally, their money. $20-something million was spent on these people. But I'm saying all of this to say you have an NDC who is a bit more real, more proactive, who understand the people on the ground, who are doing things to help the people and focus on improving the conditions of the people. But I want us to pivot a bit because this morning I referenced the NNP to be similar to the GULP under a period of Maurice Bishop and the revolution.
You know, Kim, I want to get into that. I want to get into that. So don't lose that trend of thought, because that's important. That's an important historical factor. But Peter, I want to find out from you, right? Your analysis, because you did a lot of data collection during the election. From your analysis and what happened afterwards, do you think that it was a vote against NNP because there's or Dr. Keith in particular, or some people say they didn't vote for Deacon Mitchell and the NDC, Honorable Deacon Mitchell and the NDC, but they voted against Keith Mitchell and the NNP. Did you see that in your data collection while you was gathering information?
Yeah, no, but I mean that's an obvious point and an obvious response. I mean, I was listening to Ken with interest, and I tell you, Ken, one of the things that you learn when you're in this business for a while is that this idea of change always excites people with a government that's as old as the NNP was, and a leader that was in office for as long as the Keith Mitchell was leader. So change is obvious. And I tell you, I polled Grenada, this is before when Keith Mitchell was on his third term, and people wanted change. People also wanted a youthful, exciting leader. And that was clear then. And this is an election that Keith Mitchell won. When he went into opposition, and I polled that election that Tillman Thomas won, the majority of people were saying that they wanted change and they wanted a leader that was youthful and exciting. And well, of course, you know what happened. Tillman Thomas won the election, and then he had a wobble, and they went back to Keith Mitchell. Even though people nationally were saying that they wanted change and they wanted a youthful leader. So I am not at all surprised that you found data that supported the idea that Grenadians wanted somebody youthful. Because that's the reality of what they want. And I can tell you, there was polling done in Barbados very recently. Prime Minister Motley is now one of the most popular leaders in the Caribbean. And a lot of people said that they wanted somebody youthful. Mia Motley is not a young person. But the feeling is that, there are young people, like Ronnie was running, and Ronnie is a young person, and people were saying they wanted somebody youth. These are things that excite people. So I am entirely unsurprised that people in Grenada at that time said that they wanted that. And in my polling also, I was seeing for a while. And this is elections that Keith Mitchell won and lost, that people wanted change and they wanted something new. It's difficult for a person to be prime minister for 20 years, 25 years, to win elections as frequently, and people not get tired of him. I personally think the shelf life of a politician, of a leader, needs to be 10 years. That's my personal view. This has nothing to do with any advice I would give to a political party. My personal view is that 10 years is a reasonable time, because generally speaking, after 10 years, people get tired of a leader. So that kind of thing doesn't surprise me. And as far as this last election is concerned, it was obvious that a lot of people were voting for change. And it was obvious that a lot of people were tired of Keith Mitchell. And as I said, there would have been polling that I would have done that said the same thing. But I'm saying that there is no guarantee that because a person says they want somebody young or that they want change, that they're necessarily going to vote against the NNP. Because in the past, they have wanted those things and they have voted for the NNP. And they have voted for the same Keith Mitchell that lost the election. And I mean, you've seen it in all of the islands where people say that in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, no. We have a prime minister that has been continuously leading for longer than Keith Mitchell, and he has won continuous elections. And every time you poll them there, people say they want change, they want somebody useful, but nobody don't fill the eyes. So I'm saying that in this instance, you guys were fortunate that, and I'm assuming that you're a supporter of the NDC. You guys were fortunate that the change movement and the desire for change caught a wind in which there was enough disinterest in Keith Mitchell and the belief that he was tired, that people said, look, this guy is interesting, let's give him a chance and let's see what he has to do. So I appreciate that your enthusiasm for Dicker Mitchell was greater than mine because you knew him. I didn't. But I have difficulty understanding how in a space of a year, the majority of people in Grenada could have been so overwhelmingly enthusiastic about Dicker Mitchell that they were not voted for him. I think that this was more a conversation where people were saying, right now, we are tired of Keith Mitchell. And the point has to be made that the fact that Dicker Mitchell beat Keith Mitchell, Tillman Thomas beat Keith Mitchell. Uncle Tilly, bless him. He's a decent guy and whatnot, but he's easily one of the worst leaders that the Caribbean has produced, alongside Frendel Stewart that we had in Barbados. And I'm being frank, I don't have an axe to grind with either of them. But there are some people, Jimmy Carter is in that group, that are not really cut up for politics. Stevenson King in St. Lucia, and a right lead in the country. But decent people, nice people you will sit down and have a drink with. And I think that the fact that you found Keith Mitchell being beaten by someone like Tillman Thomas, and then secondly beating someone like Dicker Mitchell, who came into politics for a year, demonstrates that the issue can't be there. The issue has to be Keith Mitchell. That there was an exhaustion. And no, I'm saying that, and I'm not saying that because I have an issue with Keith Mitchell, but I'm saying it because I've seen it in relation to him, in relation to Owen Arthur. Owen Arthur was beaten by Frendel Stewart. As I said, again, one of the worst leaders that the Caribbean has produced. The conversation is not about Frendel. The problem was that people had an issue with Owen Arthur, and that ultimately is what it comes down to. So in the final analysis, I have no doubt in my mind that a lot of those people who went out there voted out of exhaustion with Keith Mitchell. And the belief that, look, here it is, we have a chance, just like we did with Tillman Thomas, to give people something. And I tell you, I give him full marks for saying, I got the wave and they're going to continue to ride it.
Kim?
Right. So, yeah, for me, you see, we cannot water down the fact that the NDC ran a very good campaign. And we cannot water down the fact that Deacon Mitchell came in very organized with a team of people ready to win. We cannot water down that. We cannot ignore that fact. The PR was on point, and the team, the messaging, every single thing was on point. Not only that, not just Deacon Mitchell and the team that came in 8 months before the election. Remember, you had people out here who were actually doing the groundwork, preparing the way, like John the Baptist, for Deacon Mitchell, to make sure that when he comes, that the victory will happen. So they ran a very good campaign. So while NNP was mess up, NNP was doing all kind of rubbish out there, Keith Mitchell was talking all kind of nonsense and so on, and they were overconfident. They were of the belief that they're going to win this thing. Their jackets were still in the offices and so on. The people went out there because they also saw a Deacon Mitchell who is ready, intelligent, smart, a successful lawyer, corporate lawyer, one with people who surrounded him who were very competent, who are very organized, right? Who have a good track record in this country. So you have to factor in all those things. So while Keith Mitchell was doing all his nonsense and NNP was doing all this stuff, we were out here preparing the way for a person like Deacon Mitchell. In other words, we must not water down what they have done. They ran a masterful campaign. They were well organized. They pumped the resources into the campaign. The messaging was really great. It was not just people going out and say, I don't want Keith or I don't want the NNP. Or else NDC would have been in power long before this. Long before that day. Right? They got, 15 in 2013, 15 in 2018. People were tired. After 2013 to 2018, people were tired. We keep Mitchell and the NNP. So we were out here working the ground and making sure that we prepared a way for him. When he came in, he did not come in unprepared. He came with a team with what was required to take this thing forward. We can't water down that. They ran a masterful campaign and their message was bang on target. They did well.
Right. Yeah. Peter, you spoke a little bit about the previous campaign with the NDC. We saw in 2013, it was 2013. They lost all their seats. NDC lost everything, right? And because there was infighting within the party, there was report, members got expelled, Peter David included, and a bunch of others got expelled. So there was infighting. How significant is that when you have political party infighting within their own self? How significant is that in putting yourself up to the electorate and asking them to vote for you?
Yeah, I think it's the key factor. If you look at the life cycle of a government in any of the Caribbean islands, you see that invariably they win the first election when they get into office. The second one invariably is given because most people will get two bites at the cherry unless they do horribly. But from there, it's all about the opposition. So generally speaking, opposition parties win elections and government lose elections in that way. That's the kind of analysis that I would say. So you would normally see one or two. If you look at the governments that have been in power for longer in the Caribbean, NNP, Unity Labour Party in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Barbados Labour Party in Barbados, St. Kitts and Nevis Labour Party in St. Kitts. In every single instance where they're able to stay at the wicket longer than 2 terms, it is always because there's a poor opposition and invariably because the opposition has poor leadership. And I think that over the years, the NDC has been outstanding regarding its inability to organize itself and its inability to produce good leaders. Look, the battles between Tillman Thomas and Nazim Burke and Peter David within the NDC is not a secret. Everybody knows it. It's one well known. And and if you look at opposition parties in the Caribbean, there has been none that has been worse organized than the NDC over the years. The fact that the NDC has gotten its act together, and I agree, one of the NDC's major assets now is the fact that they have cleared the decks of all of that post-revolutionary rancor and argument between who lock up Tillman Thomas and all this kind of thing. All of that's finished because you have someone now whose hands are completely clean of all of that. And I made that comment on election night. This is no New Grenada politics, and a politics that is interested in a way that it hasn't been before. So I think it is all about the government. And certainly it was all about that in terms of the leadership of the past government. Because generally speaking, anytime you see a government continuing for that long, look at Dominica, right? The UWP is a mess. And anytime you see a situation in which the opposition party is as messy as the NDC was before, that's the reason that propels governments to stay in office all of this time. People genuinely like change in terms of leadership. And anytime you find a leader do it exceedingly well in that regard, it's because people ain't got nobody else to look at. Yeah, Mia Molly excites people now. And a lot of people are looking at her in a way they haven't looked at politicians before because she's exciting. But you can rest assured that her star will pitch eventually. And people will start saying, all right, yeah, we had enough of that. We're tired now. So let's start looking for an alternative. Where no alternative presents itself, like in Barbados and Grenada, St. Vincent and the Grenadines and Dominica, and St. Kitts and Nevis, they're not going to go with it. But look at what happened in St. Kitts. It was the exact same thing. People voted in a person who was Minister of Finance and a minister in the government of Denzel Douglas, because they got tired of Denzel Douglas. And then another quick point that we have to make about this election, you look at the data, right? The NDC lost, and I think I had done a calculation, it was either 300 or 400 votes that made the difference between government or opposition. So there's no overwhelming nothing. So Ken, I appreciate your enthusiasm to say that this was an overwhelming. The voter turnout was abysmal. So I would say it's more a situation where people say they're gonna stay home and that because they don't see anything good reason that they should go out and vote for Keith Mitchell, and the stay home factor was low. Generally speaking, when you find that there's an overwhelming swing and sweep in favor of a government that says, yes, this is a guy that we want to invest in. If you look at the Obama election, right? The voter turnout is high. The voter turnout in this election was low. And as I said, the difference between win and loss, so you're looking at 300 votes in 3 seats. I can't see that as I see that as something which says we got to look at what was going on the ground, and clearly people were excited. But Ken, I appreciate that we are in different departments, and it's your responsibility to see the cup a lot more full than me. And I appreciate the analysis that you're giving. But I'm just saying that from my own perspective, I'm slightly more cautious.
Yeah,
I'm slightly more cautious.
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
It's true. Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. I respect that.
Yeah.
But I can tell you, whenever you have an organized NDC with a leader who the base of the NDC appreciates love with good messaging and so on, NNP is in trouble. You check it out carefully. As long as the NDC is organized.
That happened once.
In 2008, even if people wanted change and they wanted change, this change didn't start in 2008. It started since in 2003, when the Peter David, the Nazim book, the George Prime, the full works, the Ali Gills, and they came on the scene.
And it took them 10 years to warm up.
It climaxed in 2008, right?
Okay.
But I'm saying once you have an organized NDC in Grenada, NNP will always be in trouble. And I would say this, check it out carefully. The last election in this country, we saw the activation or the reactivation of the base of the NDC. Some people thought that the base of the NDC was so small that it would not make any difference. We saw people who were never excited, wowed to go out and vote. They were never NNP. They were anti-NNP, anti-Keith Mitchell. But when Deacon Mitchell came on the scene with that organized team of men and women, they were excited. They were wowed to go out and vote. And that is why we saw the people in the middle. And yes, I know you're a pollster. The people in the middle, a lot of people underestimated the people in the middle. So while you have 20-something thousand NNP supporters, you have 20-something thousand NDC supporters. Some may argue that NNP have a little more than NDC, but the people in the middle, they came out in their numbers and they voted overwhelmingly for Deacon Mitchell and the NDC. In Grenada and in small island politics, we all know people vote for leaders, not just an MP in that place or MP in that place, to a certain extent, the party and the leader. It was clear in Grenada. And we all know, once you have an organized NDC, NNP in trouble. And right now, consistently so, we have an organized NDC administration and a party at peace. You have NNP instability, infighting, struggle for leadership. Well, now the convention has ended, but now the problem is even worse than before. To unite these warring parties, it will take a long, long, long time. So I'm deferring. I'm thinking differently from Peter. While I respect his opinion and his position, he's a pollster. I'm a lay person in this. I'm only a podcaster, and I know he has podcasting under his belt too. But I'm simply saying here, once you have organized NDC, NNP is in trouble. In fact, I want to make this point. Some people think that Keith Mitchell was this popular leader and NNP was this popular party. In fact, some people up to today, to this point, believe so. But I beg to differ. I was a part of the NNP at the executive level. I worked at the headquarters of the NNP. And I can tell you, they used a very simple formula. if you have 4,000 people registered in a constituency, they knew all they needed was 2001. And they focus on that 2010 or 2050, and to hell was the others. Their programs will get towards them, and over they were winning the elections. Not to say that the Grenadian population and everybody, or the majority of people in the country, like Mitchell and like NNP, to win a seat in our style of election, all you need to do is to get one more than your opponent, just one more. And only those who turn out to vote, not those who registered to vote. I give you a typical example with Peter numbers, because I crunched that only recently. You look at Peter David, for example, and Emilyn Pierre. Peter David, in 2018, this guy beat Claudette Joseph badly. He got 1,615 votes. Claudette Joseph got 789 votes. But here it is. Look at the amount of people who were registered to vote in that constituency. You had 3,415 people registered to vote in that constituency. Only 2,462 people voted. And then Peter David won there by what 820 something votes, 826, I think. He beat her badly. But in 2022, you saw the same Peter David running against the same Claudette Joseph, and Peter David won by only 211 votes. Only 211 votes. So you saw, and people may say Keith Mitchell have his way, but the guy understands statistics to a certain extent. He saw that from day one, that Peter is not as popular as people say he is, right? And we know Peter ideology and his belief and where he stand and his past record and all that kind of stuff. But Keith also, I want to assume, looked at that too. And then you look at Emilyn Pierre. Emilyn Pierre is almost equal to Peter David, but because she's homegrown, she's part of the NNP, she born there, so to speak, and she grew up within the NNP ranks over time, 20 years or whatever. But you look at Emilyn Pierre numbers, she beat Patrick Simmons in 2018 by 1,115 votes. And then she ran against David Andrews, and she won by about what? Is it 200 and something votes? 200 or almost 300 or something like that. Very, very little in terms of the vote. And the voter turnout in some instances, you look at the amount of people who were registered, a whole 1,000 something people didn't go out and vote. I am simply saying there was excitement with Deacon Mitchell coming on the scene with his team. People were excited. People were looking for that kind of intelligence, an intelligent leader, smart guy, boy, successful in his career, untainted. His messaging was on target. He never, entered this bantering and this back and forth with Keith Mitchell. In fact, I cannot recall if this goodly gentleman ever mentioned Keith Mitchell's name during his campaign.
Only when he said Susu in your...
Oh, only Susu, right. Take Susu, right. Once in an entire campaign, he saw Keith Mitchell as irrelevant. But pundits and surrogates were out here doing the work that he's supposed to do. But I'm saying that there was excitement. That is why today, Peter, the excitement, people are excited about Deacon Mitchell and his team. The likability is high, and I wish you can do a poll on that. Likability, viability, electability. I mean, the guy is everywhere he goes. He's the center of attention. People want to touch him. People want to give a bounce. People want to eat, laugh. In other words, we have to be real. This guy is the real deal.
Right. Peter, when you look at the numbers, right, and you look at excitement and Kem's position, from your perspective, you look at it from a practical numbers. You're a numbers guy, right? When you look for excitement, what kind of numbers you expect? Do you expect a maximum turnout? Do you expect maximum registration? Do you expect more of a victory? What do you look for when you look for excitement in the electorate?
Yeah. No, I mean, I was listening and making some notes because I had done an analysis of the numbers as well, and I want to start with the whole idea of excitement. And I think that one of the best measures of excitement is voter turnout. The voter turnout in this election was 70%, and I look at that and I compare it to the previous election. There's a minus 4% decrease on the previous election. That does not tell me that there were more voters who were excited, right? The NP voter turnout, in terms of their increase in electoral turnout in seats that the NNP won, was, I had an estimate here that was probably approaching 10% in terms of the voter turnout in their constituencies, which basically says to me, the problem we have was not NDC supporters or NNP supporters converting and supporting the NDC. We had a situation where traditional hardcore areas for the NNP, people did not come out and vote. And the question was why. So I am not saying for 1 minute that people might not be excited about the commissioner. No, I think they have every good reason to be excited about him. No. But I'm saying that in that last election, these numbers don't tell me excitement. You don't have excitement in the election and you have a voter turnout that's 70%. That is lower than the previous election. You look at the voter turnout in Keith Mitchell's constituency, the same Keith Mitchell. He lost 8% of support in terms of the voter turnout, 8% less voters voted in Keith Mitchell's constituency. Peter David, 10% less people voted in Peter David's constituency. The same Delma Thomas is 3%. Emilyn Pierre, 3%. Kate Lewis Peters, 6%. Right? In the places that the NDC won, they had losses in terms of voter turnout in a lot of those places too. St. Patrick's East was 8% voter turnout increase, minus 8% voter turnout increase. So the point I am making is that I really do think that the key factor in the last election was voter turnout, because in all of these places you're talking, excitement cannot be indicative of the fact that less people vote this election than in the previous election. And then let's come to this whole question of performance. And you're saying that Peter David is this and that. And, there's something called electoral swing, which I imagine that you're familiar with. And I had done a swing analysis. The NNP lost 11% in terms of their electoral swing in the last election, which is a significant electoral loss. And I'm not trying to soft it, but I'm saying that the electoral swing against the NNP was 11%. There are few political parties in the region that could suffer an 11% blow and still win an election. And that's exactly what happened in this instance. So the loss of support is naturally going to be tied to all of the candidates in that particular election that are supporting the NNP. So if you look at Keith Mitchell's personal swing was negative 12, right? Clarice Modeste was a negative 13%. Peter Davis was a negative 12. If you want to understand why Peter David did so badly in this election, it has everything to do with the fact that he was running on an NNP ticket. The last time around, the NNP was doing well, and as a result, his electoral swing grew. On this occasion, the candidates that have the highest levels of support are always the ones that hemorrhage the most votes when the electoral swing goes against them. And in this instance, you're looking at Keith Mitchell, 12% swing. You're looking at Peter David, 12% swing. It's consistent with the fact that you will always expect candidates that have more support to do worse. That is the reason Peter David's support, his rise and fall, was entirely linked to the party with which he associated. And on this occasion, he was associating with a party that did poorly. And as a result, he did poorly as well. And what I thought was interesting was that the negative swing of Emilyn Pierre that you were saying had done so well. She had a negative 14. The party only had a negative 11. So one could argue that she did worse than the party, but she won her seat, and now she's leader of the NNP. So these are the numbers that I look at and analyze, and I'm saying that it's difficult for us to have a conversation about win and loss and up and down within these two parties without looking at these kind of numbers. These swing numbers are very telling. It's telling of a party that was exhausted. It's telling of a party that did badly. And as a result, all the candidates in the party who were associated did worse. The ones that lost were the ones that had less support to lose. The ones that were able to hold on, like Keith Mitchell and Peter David, are the ones that have more support. But ultimately, their electoral swing would have been bigger. It is not entirely surprising. It is consistent with what you would expect in an election like this.
Right. So it's important, and I listened to Peter there. It's important to understand the NDC came from 0 to 9, and that's something that I don't know if Peter is considering.
But that's why the swing was so high against the NNP. Right?
And that is also why I am saying to you that people were excited about Deacon Mitchell and his team, and the NDC was well organized, and as a result, they were able to win the election. That is why I'm saying that. I'm saying they came from 0, and to take them from 0, because remember, when they ran the election of 2013 and lost, when they ran the election, that was with Tillman Thomas. When they ran the election of 2018 and lost, and some people may argue and say otherwise. You see, when NDC has a good leader or a good leader with a good team, look out. And that is what we have seen. In 2018, they ran with, it was Nazimbok, I think. I think the leader was Nazimbok at the time.
Yes.
Right? And they lost. Right? You may say, well, the NNP was more organized, the people were more excited and so on. But let's face it, in Grenada, people vote for leaders. And people voted for Deacon Mitchell as the leader of the NDC because they were excited about him and his team. He was fresh and the NDC was organized. And it's clear-cut. A lot of NDC were reactivated. There were people who didn't vote in 2013 because they were upset with all the infighting, all the problems and all the issues there. They stayed away in 2018 too because they were not impressed with who were on the ticket. In 2022, they wake up. They went out in droves, in numbers, right? And I agree with Peter when he spoke there about who actually voted for the NDC. Because the NNP people, they voted for the NNP. We could say what we want. There are some people who saying, well, 1,000 or 2,000 voted, leave NNP and go and vote for NDC. That's joke. Joke. Because with all the mess that NNP was doing, they still got 28,000 or so votes. Still got that. They lost by what? 3,000 or so votes. The people in the middle, I mean, you always have a 5,000 or 4,000 or whatever who would go either way based on what are the dynamics on the ground and so on. What are the issues? But the NNP people went out and they voted for NNP, and NNP lost. The NDC people, they were reactivated, they were excited, and they go out and they voted for the NDC, and the NDC won with the people in the middle who were wowed and excited about Deacon Mitchell and the team. And they won the election. Big time.
Peter, I want you to respond to that, but also let's zero in a little bit on Peter David, right? People are saying that he came in with a lot of political capital, right? That is to be determined. You have the numbers that we could crunch it down. Here's the reason why we call the math don't matter. Let's see if the math mattered. How much strength did Peter come into the NNP with? What did he bring? What was his political capital? What amount of political capital he came in with?
You asking me or Ken?
No, I'm trying to get it from you.
Peter, all I can tell you, the man was on TV only recently saying, well, announcing the amount of millions that he brought in. So definitely he was able to bring in the money. I don't want to call it peso. I don't want to call it what they call it in Venezuela down there again. I don't want to call it this kind of name. But the man made it very clear that he was instrumental financially in the campaign of 2013 and 2018, and maybe to a certain extent in 2022. So we could say what we want about Peter David, and we have to be frank. Peter David is a charismatic guy. He could come in any space, as sly as he might be. He could come in any space and make you smile, make you laugh, make you, you want to be around that little zone. We could say what we want about him, right? Unlike Emilyn Pierre, for example, she doesn't have the kind of Peter qualities. in terms of charisma, in terms of interpersonal skills and being able to mix and mingle even with people who you dislike, right? But the guy said he brought a lot of, to the campaign. So he came with weight. And there was a lot of people who left with the man when he was expelled from the NDC. We can't ignore that. And he went into the NNP. He said that the man who said all the nasty things about him recently in the lead up to the convention, the man came in his house and they came and they begged him and they pleaded with him, and he brought his people with him, into the NNP. So he brought money, and I think he brought a number of people over, and we have to give him that.
So what was it then that does not exist now? So that's what I'm trying to find out. What was the political capital that he came in with at that point in time that it was so beneficial for the NNP that now it is not? What did Peter do with all that he came in with? What your numbers telling you anything?
I mean, Kem is basically suggesting that what he brought was money, and I mean, politics, money is important. Although he did say, to be fair to Kem, he did say that he was a popular guy and he had energy. I tell you, I've known of Peter David for a lot longer than I have known Peter David. And I have always gotten the sense that Peter David is extremely popular in Grenada. If you see him, the way that he moves around in Grenada and he speaks to people, he has an energy and an enthusiasm. And I've seen it with politicians across the region, and definitely David is in that thing. So in that zone. So if you consider popularity, personal popularity, clearly he is a person that can come in your living room and sit down and talk to you, and you will like him. And I think that is it. You add to that a strong socialist philosophy, which carries a lot of weight in the context of the Caribbean, where there are countries and constituencies with serious social problems, and people believe that socialism will help them to deal with a lot of the issues that they have on the ground. That is definitely something that David brought, because he's known to be a socialist, he's known to be a thinker, he's known for someone who has an interest in helping people and ordinary people to emancipate themselves and so on, and to bring forward. So there's that. He has baggage. There's no question that he has baggage, and that's something that we can probably talk about another time. But what we're talking about is what he brought. So I'm saying that he brought that. I did polling in Grenada just around the time that the NNP was breaking up, and there were people. The NDC. This is 2008, just after the 2008 election, when the NDC started to have a speed wobble, and a majority of people in Grenada said that they felt that Peter David was the best person to lead within the NDC. Sorry, I think that speaks a lot, because I'm saying that clearly, if it is that within the disorganized state that the NDC was by that time, clearly was not being led in a way that was inspiring people. You could find a majority of people in the city that think that the savior for the NDC would be Peter David. And I can say this now because that information is in the public domain. Clearly, there are people in Grenada that have a regard for him. There are people in Grenada that have no use for him as well. But clearly, there are a lot of people in Grenada that have a regard for him. So I think that is something that he brought. I will go further and say that one of the reasons that when David left the government, he was kicked out of the party, and he brought over to the NNP a willingness and an ability to organize and an energy. I think that was significant, because at that point in time, I think that Keith Mitchell benefited from the fact that he was not only attracting the traditional, but he could bring over the tongue of St. George and somebody with that kind of a live enthusiasm and so on. And I think that was one of the key reasons that he would have done as well as he did in the election after when Peter David ran, because there was that energy that he brought. He's known to be an organizer. He's known to be a fundraiser. So I would say that the capital is a lot of that, is his ability to do a lot of these things. I want to speak now to what happens to that.
Before you move on, Peter, just let me just slip in something here, if you permit, because I don't want you to lose your train of thought at all. I must also say to you, if you go and you speak to people and you ask them, but what has Peter David done within all the time that he has been on the national stage? There are few people who can actually tell you that he did X, Y, or some program, some initiative, something in his name. That while you're saying that he might be a good organizer, he may have done X, done Y, and but if you go and you engage people in Grenada and you ask them, like you go and you ask them about Keith Mitchell, they might tell you one or two things. But you go and ask them about Peter David, and they can't tell you. Very few things they can tell you about Peter David. But one thing I want to say here, lastly, when Andrew Holness and Alan Chastity spoke at that event, that 40th, what was it, a banquet or some kind of event they had, the NNP had, they actually, in the delivery, was telling me and you, Peter, you don't belong in the NNP. Your ideology, your principles, your everything, it does not mesh, it does not fit in within the NNP. And that's something that we must also consider.
I don't know. That does Kem, that's way off course.
No,
Kem, that's way off course.
No, but
I had that conversation with Kenya with the former Prime Minister St. Lucia on Sunday. And I challenge that you can't come to me with an ideological conversation and say to me that somebody who is known to be left is uncomfortable within an organization that is left and within a party. No, because the NDC is essentially reflecting the same kind of socialist policies. So I am not understanding where that conversation about ideology and whatnot is coming from, and that's not what I heard from Andrew Holness or Alan Chastity. So I think that honestly is a distraction, because I don't think that either of those came with that. And certainly when I listened to Alan Chastity on Sunday, where we had a conversation post convention, and he was coming with this thing about the fact that center-right parties are not reflecting SIDA. What is center-right about either the NDC or the NNP in Grenada? What policy that the NDC has pursued could be called center-right? The NDC NNP is a socialist party, just as the NDC is. And certainly when people talk about the market, they are more excited about the market taking a central role within an NDC led by Dickon Mitchell because of his private sector background. So let's not go down that road about ideology, because it's an argument that does not make sense. To suggest that that's what Andrew Holness came to Grenada to tell people isn't washing with me.
If Junior,
I would like to finish my point though.
No, I would give you all we have time. In fact, very soon the program will run concurrently on the radio station that my programs come on. But I'm saying here, Peter, if Junior can go back and play just that little piece, maybe a minute or less, of Andrew Holness and Alan Chastity at that particular event, and you listen to the rhetoric, you listen to the statements that they made there, it was very clear. They were sending a strong message to Peter that you do not belong in the NNP.
Well, I don't know. I'm not going down that road. I didn't hear them, and I say if that's what they're saying, that ideologically he was out of place, then both of them were talking nonsense, and both of them did not understand the ideology of the NNP and the NDC in Grenada. If they were able to make statements like that, I did not hear that. I don't see that going. But I was making a point before, and I was attempting to telescope towards the relevance of Peter David and the capital that he brought before and the impact that he could have now. And I was about to make the point when I was interrupted that I honestly think that he can be more devastating to the NNP now than he could have been before. Because the reality is that it takes a lot less to derail the chances of a party getting back into power than it takes to help a party to win. And let me explain what I mean when I say that. I think that in the context of what we're seeing now in Grenada, right, where the NNP is appearing to be disorganized, the NDC is appearing to be organized, the role of Peter David in helping to propel this idea that the NDC is the disorganized mess that it is appearing to be, it can be devastating to the NNP and its ability to reform. So I'm anxious to hear how Emilyn Pierre will embrace him, if she will. I'm anxious to hear how he will respond to that embrace. And my thing is that if they don't get together, the two of them, and start to make political love in the very, very near future, if Peter David decides to throw a tantrum, it's going to be devastating for the NNP. And any chances that the NNP has of reorganizing, because Emilyn Pierre is not a strong leader. She's not somebody that has the tact or the charisma or the experience of a Keith Mitchell. And certainly she can't match the experience and the ability to work on the organization of a Peter David. And I think that against that background, if she is unable to pull him back in, he can be a loose cannon that can cause some serious damage. I don't know if he can help himself and a new political entity or whatnot necessarily to win, but the reality is he can do some serious damage to the NNP's hopes of getting back into government, and that's something that I think should be making them sleep pretty uneasily.
Guys, you're watching RideAlong live in this conversation here with Peter Wickham and Kim Jones. We have a caller on the line. Let's jump to this caller on the phone line right now, and we will come back to the conversation here with Peter and Kim. Caller, you're live. Where are you calling us from?
New York City.
New York City, go right
Hi, Junior. Hi, Kim. Hi, Peter.
Hi.
All right, Peter, I have a question for Peter. All right, Peter, I listened to you and I've been following you in a couple polls in St. Lucia, Dominica, and different countries. And sometimes you're totally wrong. And then my question to you, my first question, I want to know how comes in the last Grenada election where our beloved Prime Minister won, you did not have a poll? And then after you went to St. Lucia and then you did polls and stuff on it. All right, my second question to that, based on the NNP constitution, they're supposed to have a convention every year. So if well, seeing that Emilyn Pierre cheat her way in, as I'm gonna say, that's in my opinion. I want to know that before the next election call, basically based on NNP constitution, they're supposed to have two conventions. So I want to know if they're going to suspend the constitution, because from Sunday, Alain is the next Prime Minister of Grenada. So I want to know how come she's the next Prime Minister of Grenada and still they have two conventions to go. And if Peter David's still around, he could still put up himself to run in the last convention leading to election. So I want to know what's your opinion on that.
Yeah. No, I appreciate the question, and I realize that you're trying to be provocative. I don't think that you should assume that the absence of a published poll means that there was not a published poll. And I would invite you, sir, if you are familiar with information that suggested that there was no poll done, to perhaps identify a poll that you know of that was done with a date on it, that was done by me or done by my organization, and tell me what exactly it said in relation to the outcome of the last election. Everyone knows that I am not in a position, or I'm not at liberty to speak to polls which are commissioned by me, that the owner does not decide to release the information into the public domain. And very, very few of the polls that we do are released into the public domain.
So
but there are people in Grenada.
There was a poll. There was a poll that was conducted by you. That was sponsored.
What, in relation to the last election?
In relation to the so let me ask the question. Was there a poll done? Was it a particular poll done in relation to the last election, sponsored by the New National Party?
I cannot speak to the ownership or to the sponsorship of any poll that I do in Grenada, and in most instances, as I said, I can't tell you who the poll belongs to, but if the person who has sponsored the poll wants to speak to it, they're welcome to do so. And in Grenada, I have not found that there's an interest in people who sponsor polls on either side publishing that information. I didn't do any polling in Grenada. I would say, in terms of national polls, within probably about 8 or 9 months of there being an election called in Grenada. And I think that that is a critical point that has to be made. I've always said that a poll has a shelf life of 30 days, right? So at any rate, even if the owner of the last national poll I had done release that information, and to be quite frank, I would be happy if they did. It wouldn't be particularly useful in terms of predicting the outcome of the last election. In the run-up to the election, I did a couple of constituency polls, and they were spot on. 2, and they were spot on, right? The problem is that them two, the owner of those two, he didn't want to release them. And you may be friends with a few people in Grenada, so you may be able to get your hands on them. But this thing is not about polling. And I realize that in all of this business, a lot of people like to jump up on me when an election and say, you were wrong, you were right, and this. I don't have the interest in that now, because I don't know that that's helpful. We're trying to discuss and analyze the growth and development of politics in the Caribbean. I'm a pollster. That's how I make a living. I'm not going to deny it. But I'm also a political analyst and a political scientist. And I have a deeper intrinsic interest in what's going on. And I think that if it becomes a contest where people want to say, you're wrong this place, you're wrong that place, you're wrong that place, and people always talk about how many polls I've had and where I've been wrong. And in half of the time, they have never seen it, like we're having tonight, where you have not seen the information, but yet still you have concluded that the polling was incorrect. So let's park that. As to whether or not what's going on in the NDC is correct, sorry, the NMP right now is wrong, and whether there was a constitutional infringement, I think that is also public knowledge. That you have had constitutional experts that have spoken to the fact that there should have been a convention before. You have constitutional experts that spoke to the fact that the idea of a selection committee was not consistent with the constitution of the NNP. The problem in all of this is that this is not the first time a party's constitution has been violated, and it won't be the last. In many instances, parties have requirements that in order for there to be a convention, there have to be, let's say, 200 people present. And in many instances, you don't have that many, right? I used to belong to the youth arm of a political party, and our constitution required that we do not have a meeting unless we have 25% of the registered membership in attendance. And we never got that. But nonetheless, we used to have meetings. So the point is that what exactly are you going to do about it? And I think that is the question. Do the people of the NNP see Emilyn Pierre as a legitimate leader of that organization? Do the people of the NNP believe that not having a convention for 2 years delegitimizes the current leader of that organization? And how does that help her in terms of future elections within the NNP? And indeed, how does that help her nationally? Personally, I'm uncomfortable with it. I believe that she should be uncomfortable with it. I personally think that it speaks volumes about the fact that someone was unwilling to have an election and say, look, if you have a problem with me, put it up. But I also know that I saw what happened in St. Kitts and Nevis, and the St. Kitts and Nevis convention to replace Denzel Douglas was put off just as many times as the one in Grenada was put off. And you saw a situation in which Denzel Douglas was also saying, if I'm the leader, I cannot be challenged. If I decide not to be leader anymore, then you can challenge me. But I cannot be challenged once I'm leader. And they had the same kind of conversations in there. Ultimately, they had a convention. They had nomination of Dr. Drew. Dr. Drew won over the person, which is Congress Maynard, that Denzel Douglas would have preferred, because Denzel Douglas openly said that he would prefer this. This does not happen in the case of the Grenada situation, simply because Peter David pulled out. So we don't know what would have happened if he stayed in. My understanding is that he wasn't even nominated in the first place because there was this selection committee that determined that he couldn't be a candidate. So that is the details, but I'm saying it goes beyond those details, and we have to ask ourselves, what is it going to mean when the rubber hits the road? And this good lady is campaigning, and does she get support within the NNP? Does she get confidence nationally? And I will continue to argue that her task is going to be made far harder now than if it was a clean battle between herself and Peter David that left that did not leave one party feeling aggrieved. And she didn't have to continue to fight internal battles and then fight a national battle against a leader that Kem has just indicated is growing in popularity. So the future is going to be a steep hill that she has to climb, and I can only wish her well.
Yeah. Let's go back to the phone line. We got another caller on the line. Caller, you're live. Where are you calling us from?
I'm calling from New York City.
New York City, go right ahead.
Okay. I have been listening to Kem and your program for the longest while. Longest while, probably about maybe 2 months. Just surfing the internet. Now, I find a lot of biasness in Grenada. By the way, I'm a Grenadian who left Grenada 40 years ago. So I was a civil servant before I left Grenada. So I seem to know a lot about what's going on in Grenada. I work for the Gary government and the Bishop government. I left just about the time when Bishop came into power.
Okay.
Now, I have been listening to you guys. And my opinion is Peter David. Right now, in my opinion, the best thing for Peter David right now is to form his own party. Remember, Peter David was with the NDC. They kicked him out because he tried to take over the party. So the NDC supporters, remember that. He went to the NNP after he was kicked out. Dr. Mitchell took him in. And then they are complaining right now that they didn't like what Dr. Mitchell did to him. I myself probably thinking that way too.
Right.
But then NNP right now, I think he's done. NDC is done. I think Peter David has support right now in both parties. So the best thing, in my opinion, for Peter David right now is to form his own party and pull as much support from both parties. Right. And that's the only how I see a survival right now for Peter David.
Thank you, caller.
That's my contribution.
Thank you so much, caller, for your contribution on this topic here tonight. Again, guys, yes, go ahead. On a programming note, guys, you're watching RideAlong live, and we encourage you guys to join the conversation. You can call in the number that you called, 718-701-5720. Yes, Peter Wickham.
Well,
who was saying they wanted to make a point? Was it Kem or Peter?
I want to, but I'll give it to Kem if he wants to. It's fine.
Yeah, okay, Kem, sorry.
I want to make 2 points. Thank you, caller, there. My first point, if you ask me to advise Peter David on what to do next, Peter David should, in fact, Monday gone, should have called a press conference and announced his resignation from the NNP and remain independent from both parties. Peter David, to me, is an outside child. And there is bad blood within the NNP when it comes to Peter and all of them in there. He can't sit at the table. He's not an equal, right? It's like in the days of slavery. He's not an equal with the slave masters and so on. And it's clear. So what this guy has to do is to resign, call it a day. And his political career is more or less in the center cemetery. Let's face it. I mean, Peter is not on the ground. That's Peter Wickham here in Grenada. Some people are living in maybe a little vacuum thinking that Peter David is this popular guy out here in Grenada. Third parties will never survive in Grenada. But Peter is not this popular guy in Grenada. No, some people believe so because he gives this impression. If he was popular, why didn't he run independently in 2013? No, he was afraid. And he knew he would have gotten beaten in 2013. And then he came back, he joined NNP and ran in 2018 and ran with NNP again in 2022. What he has to do like Glennis Roberts. You don't have to call it enough, you could call it something else. But at the end of the day, there is this idea that this guy is popular, he's not. And if you go around and you ask people, tell me 2 things, 3 things that Peter did in this country, in the community, in Grenada altogether, I would love to know. I'm here, and I would love to know 3, 4, 5 things that Peter David did during his time. Yes, he's a good talker. Yes, he's a guy who is charismatic. We can run away from that reality. Yes, we know he has friends in Venezuela and those kind of places with Alba and blah, 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 blah. We know that. But when it comes to Grenada, let's point to some things that he did in this little space, in this place we call Grenada. I really want to know.
Right. We got another caller on the line. Let's jump to the caller. Caller on the phone.
I wanted to comment on that though, but anyhow, we can get back to it after. No, we can get the caller and we can come back to it after.
Okay, cool, no problem. Caller, you live? Where are you calling us from? The caller on the phone line. The caller on the WhatsApp, stay right there. We'll come to you in a short while. Caller on the phone line, go ahead. Yes, caller, where are you calling us from? Yes.
Junior, I just want to do a follow-up with Peter Wickham, because Peter Wickham did not answer my question. Because I remember coming up to the election, right? Peter Wickham was saying that that NNP is looking good, and then he was saying that Dick Mitchell is a new party, people don't know them, and then maybe they should wait for the next year. And he was proven wrong. Peter Wickham normally give his poll like during the time of the election, and Kit Mitchell and them, everybody was in the narrative that Kit Mitchell was going to win. Even Kit Mitchell said he really thought he was going to win. So if Peter Wickham, NNP used to sponsor his poll, then he will give Dr. Mitchell how the poll was looking in the time, because Dr. Mitchell was in the notion of that. You understand? So what Peter Wickham saying now is something totally different about it. Cannot really. The only poll that was right in Grenada was the one with the gentleman from Canada. He got it right. And also ask a second question concerning the Constitution, and Peter did not even address it. You know what I mean? Because they still have 2 more conventions to go before the election. I'm still waiting on my answer, Peter.
Okay, caller. Peter is going to respond.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know. This caller is trying to ask me to say something. Caller, if you know of a poll that was in existence, speak to it. I don't know what you're talking about. Look, the challenge I always have in this business, right? I was trained at University of the West Indies as a political scientist. My first job was as a political analyst. I got into polling subsequently. I used to teach politics at the University of the West Indies. Since 2004, I have been a pollster, and I have an organization called Cadres that does polling. When people hear me speak, I get the impression that they always think that I'm speaking from the basis of a poll. I talked about data tonight, but it's on the last election. It's not a poll data. It's not poll data. And I don't know why you would assume when I said that I did not think Dick Mitchell would win, it was because I did not think Dick Mitchell would win. It had nothing to do with no poll. Because as I told you, the polling that I did in the context of that election was constrained to a constituency. And those 2 polls that I did were correct, consistent with what had happened. The polling that I would have done before could not have spoken to Dick Mitchell, because Dick Mitchell was not an issue at the time. So I don't quite understand where this conversation keeps coming back. You're telling me that you know that they're opposed. If you know that they're opposed, talk to them and tell me what exactly they said. A lot of times when I speak to an analysis of politics, I am not speaking to poll data. And tonight, I have not been speaking to poll data. When I spoke on Sunday in the aftermath, when I had a good conversation with Alan Chastity, we weren't speaking about poll data. We were speaking about my views as a political scientist, analyzing the way that things go. I thought that Trump would have lost, and he won. I thought that Hillary Clinton would have beaten him the first time, and she lost. I'm not speaking with any reference to poll data. So we need to stop this nonsense where there's an assumption that I am only a pollster that can only speak with reference to polls. I have a background and a training that I speak to, and that's exactly what I'm attempting to do tonight. When we talked about, and then this whole thing about the Constitution and whatnot, that's for everybody in Grenada to say. As I said, we understand that the Constitution of the I don't know what more you want me to say in relation to that. When Kim talked about the fact that Peter David has been in politics and whatnot, and he challenges anybody to point to what he did, I challenge you, Kim, to point to what did Dick Mitchell do before he became Prime Minister? Dick Mitchell's CV had no political action or no political activity, and I saw it. And I point to you to ask, what was he known for? and he won a whole election. What was
Right.
Tillman Thomas known for when he won the election in 2008? What was Andrew Holness that you spoke about earlier, when Andrew Holness was handpicked to be the leader of Grenada when the other guy had his challenges? What was he known for in Grenada other than being somebody who kept his nose clean? Because people felt that at that time, that's exactly what Grenada needed. And then we'll go further. What was Mia Motley known for, right? Mia Motley was known for managing a crisis in which the prison burned down, right? And there are people today who feel, right, that the fact that we had a fight in the prison spoke to the fact that the Attorney General, who was her, had acted improperly in not making sure that the circumstances were right where the prisoners would not have rioted. So I'm making the point that you can't say to me that he's the only politician in the Caribbean and nobody know what he did. Invariably, people know what people did when they get to a stage where they have been prime minister and they have a legacy, and you can say, let's analyze that legacy and look back at it. So it's not only him in that regard.
No.
The other thing I wanted to comment on is this whole idea.
Allow me to rebut.
Let me just finish, and then you can speak as long as you want, right? The other thing I wanted to talk about is this whole idea of an independent candidate. I have absolutely no support for independent candidates, and I think that if Peter David decided to become an independent candidate, he would be digging his own political grave. I also don't believe that third parties.
He already dug his own.
You said it enough times tonight, so I think that we're clear that that's your view. But I'm saying that if you're going to look at it, I don't know. There's one single independent candidate that has done well in the Caribbean, and there's a guy called Asset Michael. All of us know how Asset Michael won that election. He bought it. And I don't think that with all the resources that Peter David is supposed to have, that he's in a position to buy election the way that Asset Michael bought one. So that to me is a case in point. Otherwise, the idea of third parties and new parties, the only real new party that has been successful is the People's Labour Party in St. Kitts and Nevis. And that one simply because he was able to not only catapult himself as one MP, but also capture the interest of three other MPs on the other side who were already in Parliament and essentially form a merger. And essentially he crossed the floor and led a new party. And ultimately that's actually what he did. But there is no evidence in the Caribbean that would suggest that a third party would do well. And in the case of Grenada, I would say even more so, because a big part of the reason why the NNP was as successful as it was because Grenada had a proliferation of small parties and third parties that were just breaking up the alternative vote. So my thing is that if Peter David did that, I think that he would succeed not only in sinking his own political career, but also in sinking the boat of the NNP, which he would make it very, very difficult for them to come back. And that's why I've been making the point tonight that the most damage he can do right now is to the NNP and to the NNP's chances. So no, I do not support the idea of a third party or an independent run. I think that would be devastating for the NNP. And I don't know that it would help to catapult Peter David into office necessarily.
Right. So for me, what I can tell you is Peter David has no political weight right now. Peter David is an outcast. NNP, NDC rejected this guy. He was expelled. And NNP right now, they treat him as though he's useless.
You said that? You said that before, right? So how is repeating it? No, how does repeating it help? If you want to build an analysis out from that.
Allow me now to speak. I listened to you for a long time. Okay. All right? Allow me now. Peter is considered to be a reject by the NNP. And at the end of the day, he has no political capital within NNP, within NDC, or anywhere else. The best thing for Peter right now is to retire from politics.
Right. Can you respond perhaps to what I said just now?
No.
Right? I am not suggesting that he has any capital in it. What I have said is that if you want to know where he can be most destructive, he can be most destructive in respect of the NNP's chances of getting back into power. That's all I said. And you're going off on this thing about the fact that he don't have any capital. We get it. You said it several times tonight. The question is, What is his relevance to politics? And I'm saying the relevance is that he can be a very destructive force right now in the life of the NNP.
Right.
Which is something that should make you happy.
With the insult and the embarrassment given to Peter openly, Peter has lost his authority on anything political in this country. In other words, I said once that he was deflowered. Some people say, well, it's there, yeah, it's a word used for, when you're talking about sexual this and sexual that. At the end of the day, politically, that is exactly what Keith Mitchell, in my belief, did to the guy. Publicly insulted him over and over and over, take his manhood away from him, and then 2 days before the convention, he come crying like a little baby publicly, saying that he suspended his bid for leadership of the NNP. But he knew from day one that he was a guy from the outside, and they never accepted him wholeheartedly within the NNP. And they treated
what do we do with that?
While I am simply saying the best thing for Peter David at this point in time, just as you explain what you think might be good for him, is for him to resign forthwith from the NNP, stand in the Parliament of Grenada as an independent person, not NNP, not NDC, and come the end of this term, resign, retire, give up politics. He been in there as long as Keith Mitchell, some would say, and he could just go home packing. It's a new era of politics in the country. Peter David doesn't carry any weight politically in Grenada anymore.
Well, I have an analogy, guys. I have an analogy. And someone said it. I was watching a vlog the other day, and someone said it. Peter doesn't necessarily have to win an election or create a party that could win an election. Peter could still exert his political capital by creating a party, and even if he won 2 seats in that election, he now could decide where he swing that 2 seats, whether with the NNP or the NDC. So Peter, as an independent, could still pose.
Junior, you're having a sweet dream. Junior, you're having a sweet dream. You got to check yourself.
I'm just saying, as an analogy.
I mean, I almost tell it to check and see if you wet yourself there. Be careful, because this thing not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Yeah. Look, I agree with Peter Wickham. Third party, that's a waste of time. Right. Standing independently, it's a waste of time politically, meaning when you're running independently, running as an independent candidate. That is why Peter found himself in a marriage that was not done in the church, quote unquote, right? I don't know who officiated over the whole thing, but I am saying to you, he ended up in the NNP because the guy knows fully well that he can't stand on his own. We know Glennis Roberts tried something and that did not succeed. He's good paliwal. NDC throw him out, so we can fairly say that they don't want him. All right.
Right.
So the guy is in a place where it's like that guy on the news. He just found himself in a place where he's not from. The people that don't want him, and he don't know where he come out. And that is the situation that Peter find himself in politically. What Peter should do is resign, and I want to repeat it: resign.
You repeated it.
Yes. Resign.
You said it several times. That's your view.
For the next 2 years or 2 years and a half, and maybe he might get back a little dignity because we understand what happened to him in the last couple of months leading up to the convention, and just call it a day.
Right. Asad Michael, you mentioned.
I don't know if you want me to mention. I can tell you there are a whole lot of politicians across the region that can't win elections, but could cause an awful lot of damage. And I have been making the point over and over again. You suggested that maybe he could win 2 or 3 seats. I would say that would probably be a best case scenario. But even if he doesn't win 2 or 3 seats, right? The fact that you have a situation where in the last election, and I had just looked back at a note that I had earlier, which I seem to have lost again. You had 3 marginal constituencies in Patrick East, St. John, and Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. 121 votes, 7 votes, and 149 votes. That is the election in Grenada. Okay? This election that was so overwhelmingly won by the NNP. You had 121 votes, 7 votes, and 149 votes. If they had gone differently, we would not be having this conversation today. The point I'm making is that in a situation where you have these close margins, a person like Peter David can be devastating, not necessarily to help him across the bar to win, but it can be devastating in ensuring that the NNP that cussing him up and down doesn't win again. And my sense is that you may think that that is irrelevant, but I think that that's an awful lot of power, because I may not be able to help myself win, but if I can stop you from winning, that's an awful lot of power that I have that I can wield. And in politics, you'll be surprised sometimes that that is a lot more useful than you may think. You were asking about Asa Michael.
Yeah, I was asking about Asad Michael, and you made a good point there, because I'll come to Asad Michael, because even if someone said I had a talk moment, no, even if Peter doesn't win 2 seats, even if Peter doesn't win 2 seats, right? Even if Peter is able to keep his 1 seat, he able to win St. George, Tongue of St. George. He still could bargain. He still sit to bargain with NNP or NDC. Isn't that a possibility? And probably the only likely scenario for Peter to remain in the political agenda or in the political conversation?
So I take you to St. Kitts and Nevis, where a gentleman called Tim Harris, right, withdrew from the St. Kitts and Nevis Labour Party. He won his seat. He ran candidates in 5 other constituencies, and all of them lost. He won his seat and became prime minister. And that is pretty much all that one needs to say. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that Peter David can win, but I'm saying if he wins in a situation where you have 15 seats in Grenada, 1 seat will always be relevant, especially when you have margins like the 3 that I just mentioned in the last election, right? So there's that scenario, but then there's also the scenario where you can just be like a bull in a china shop and you can just be disruptive. And the ability to be a disruptor, it can be quite valuable in a situation where, as I said, you have 15 seats in the country and DC wants to remain in power. He can be extremely effective to the NDP. He necessarily have to go nowhere. Sometimes anger, and Cam has been talking about how he was disbowled and this and that, and he was made to be ashamed, and he was undressed publicly. And when a person hears all of that and actually internalizes all of that, it can make them very, very angry. And they say that hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. And that's something we got to be careful of, because if indeed there is an individual who feels as scorned as that is the case, I mean, that can force you to do all kinds of things. You may decide to run for spite alone. I know people who have run in elections in the Caribbean out of pure spite, because it costs you nothing to run an election, nothing.
Yeah. We got a caller on the line here real quick. Let's get the caller on the WhatsApp. Caller, go right ahead.
Hello, good night, Junior.
Hey, good night, caller. Go right ahead. Where are you calling us from?
I just sit down, Grenada. I just sit down here and I listen to the discussion, and I find it interesting, but it's taking a kind of turn about. I mean, like Kim is focusing on Peter. I like him, but I mean, I find the conversation could be a little more, scientific, because the implication, in my opinion, what happened, they had some implication, national, nationwide, in the Caribbean, the president as a setting. And what about the leader of the party, which is Keith Mitchell, respect, but Mr. Mitchell, he is trying to put somebody there that he can pull the string. He could say, Miss Pierre, go left, and she have to go left. You understand? So he don't really want to give up power. Nobody is speaking of that. The reason why he do Peter what he want. I mean, Peter might have his problem and all of that, but the reason why he behaving so, he don't want to give power. He don't want to get off. He don't giving up. He is still in the middle, and nobody is speaking of that. So it's a kind of behavior. I want to hear all your opinion on that. He wants to say, remain the chairman of the party. Gregory Boyne is his right hand. What? Nobody speak of that. What is that? That means he don't relinquish power. The executive of the party is still a set of old guys. I mean, no bad vibe to old people, but it's a set of old folks. So no new blood. All the new blood they're talking about is no new blood. He still wants to remain in the center of the power struggle. So Peter David would not be pleasant for him, because Peter is an independent thinker. He will want to go where he wants. He will take the advice but go where he want.
Right.
Emilyn, she is a rookie when he come into this big leadership thing. So he find his way to say, okay, I'll sit at your right hand. Pull a string. I don't want to go too much, but
Yes.
I want to hear all your opinion on that.
Okay.
Peter.
Thank
Ken, give Peter a break. Peter is a Grenadian.
All right. Thank you, caller. Thanks for calling. Yeah.
So Junior, I know that caller. You see, I am on top of my game in talk radio in Grenada. I listen to nearly all the programs in this country, right? So that caller is a frequent caller on WFM Plead Your Cause program. And I know the sentiments he expressed there. I know where he stands politically, but nevertheless, you would hear a lot more about Peter from Kem Jones. Just as Peter Wickham might be talking about his data and whatever, that's his business. I am saying that Peter David is not who you think he is as this popular strongman in politics in Grenada. The numbers does not back that up. And the best thing he can do right now is to resign from NNP, stand independently in the parliament, and when the term ends, pack his bag and forget about politics. Because we have seen from the 70s all the way up what became of him everywhere he went. Anyways, I want to make a point that Peter made earlier. I want to lend some clarity here for a moment. If Peter doesn't know, from the last election to now, the number of people who registered, because you hear people talking about the margin in St. John, the margin in Carriacou, and the margin in St. Patrick West or East or whatever. Do you know the amount of people who got registered from the last election to now? We have 80,000 plus people registered from June, I think it's June something. June what? June, was it from June the 30th? Something like that, right? Just from independence alone, the period independence to now, we saw 1,000 something people registering. So people are registering to vote and registering to participate in the next election.
What's the excitement?
While the opposition is always saying, well, the people in the diaspora or the people there getting registered, but people are registering to vote and to participate. They're excited with what is happening in the country, holistically speaking, and they're registering because they want to participate in our democracy, right? And this is good. It's good for the governing party. It's good for NDC. You hear people in the diaspora, you hear people here in Grenada saying that they registered a child already because they love to see the direction that the country is going, which is a great thing.
Right. Kem, let me ask you this question. What is driving the increase in the registration? That increase 10,000 or whatever.
People are excited with what they're seeing with this government. And people are also in love with this young, intelligent prime minister. They believe that he's going in the right direction. And I could give you a litany of things that he did, touching all different demographics, the fishers, the farmers, the small business owners, the workers, the public officers, right? The carpenters, we can go on, the young people, the youth. We can go on and on. The amount of things that he did in the last 2 years and a half is remarkable. Mm-hmm. And people are excited about it. Grenadians have an appetite at this point in time. And I always laugh at the opposition because they have a lot of talk show programs, as you know, Junior, and podcasts and so on. But when you look at their numbers not growing in terms of viewership and so on. People are tired with the, negativity from the opposition. They want to hear good things about Grenada. What is happening good for Grenada, Carriacou, and Peter Martin? Yes, you can criticize from time to time. But so far, for the last 2 years and a half, the NNP consistently been criticizing the NDC on nearly everything. Things that are good for the country and good for the people. And people are realizing that.
Yeah. All right. We spoke so much. We spoke a lot. Look at all this speaking that we did, right? We did a lot of conversation. But, funny enough, we didn't speak much about Emilyn Pierre. She's the leader of the party. What does that say to her leadership, her as a person? Is it that she's that unpopular that everything overshadows Emilyn Pierre, leader of the party? And how much work does she have to put in from now till whenever the next election to become more of of a leadership quality that people could see her being prime minister. Peter Wickham, what's your thoughts on Emilyn Pierre?
I wanted first though to very quickly respond to what the caller was mentioning about the basically asking whether this is really a problem about Prime Minister Mitchell, former Prime Minister Mitchell, as opposed to current Prime Minister Mitchell. And I was just going to make the point that, if I'm to use the lessons that have been created by the Owen Arthur, brilliant leader, beaten twice and did not understand that his time would come. Denzel Douglas, beaten twice and didn't understand that it was time to move on. Lester Bird, beaten twice and was still fighting down to the end. This is a challenge that we have in the Caribbean with leaders who have done well, and essentially they're not comfortable sailing off into the sunset. And in the case of Denzel Douglas, he was forced because the party lost. In the case of Owen Arthur, he was also forced because the party lost and was beaten, and there was an alternative that was waiting in the wings that he was not able, try as he might, to be able to suppress. Because what was said about Peter David is nothing compared to what was said about Mia Motley. The language that Owen Arthur used to describe Mia Motley was a lot of stuff that you can't repeat on the radio in some instances. And this is a person who is now one of the most outstanding leaders in the Caribbean. So the rhetoric I get and the idea of the public humiliation of flogging is normal. And I've seen it with many leaders in the Caribbean who have been very well respected, but who have just not been comfortable with the idea of moving off. And I tell you, one of the main things in Grenada that happened that has essentially cemented Keith Mitchell in his mind, if Keith Mitchell had lost, when he lost the first election, if the NDC did not have a wobble and then the government collapsed and it propelled him back into power the second time, we wouldn't have been having these conversations. The problem is that it seems to take two beatings to convince a leader that his time has come. And I think it's unfortunate, but I suspect that this is what will probably have to happen here as well before it's clear to people, that it's clear to Dr. Mitchell that people are not going to come back to him. So that was that point. The other thing about Emilyn Pierre, I agree. It's not a person that we know a lot of. One of the things that we don't talk a lot about in Grenada is the extent to which under Keith Mitchell, he created a cadre of women. The level of representation of women in Parliament grew exponentially under the leadership of Keith Mitchell. And to the point where I was doing work once with the Commonwealth Secretariat on Women in Politics, and Grenada was an example of a situation in which we went from nothing to having one of the highest levels of female representation. Emilyn Pierre was part of that movement. So she's somebody who Keith Mitchell brought in and who was working in the party relatively quietly. She is not known for being a boisterous and aggressive person. She's a quiet worker. And I think that is really what she is selling. She's selling loyalty to Dr. Mitchell, loyalty to the NNP. She does not have the baggage that Peter David has, which I think was something that has helped her. And ultimately, she seems willing to work along with the former leader in what appears to be a relatively smooth transition. But to be honest, I think that in the final analysis is going to be a main part of her baggage. What she has to do now, as I was saying earlier in the program, she has to demonstrate that she can pull Peter David in and she can essentially cement him as part of the team in the NNP, and that she can hold the NNP together and she can have them all singing from one hymn sheet. If she's able to do that, I think that she has a good chance of winning the next election. If she is unable to do that, it's going to be difficult. But she doesn't seem to have the kind of personality that will, one could say, outshine either a Peter David or a Keith Mitchell. And certainly not a Dicker Mitchell, because it's always harder to outshine a prime minister in a situation like that. And that's my feeling. When we think of the NNP, we are more likely to think about confusion unless she is able to straighten things out to the point where she's able to have the Peter David and herself singing from the same hymn sheet, standing in Parliament. I'm particularly keen on knowing if she'll become leader of the opposition, because if she's leader of the opposition, that will certainly help her stature significantly. to see her as leader of the opposition, and she could identify a deputy leader of the opposition, and she could start to build a kind of a momentum there. And to be honest, if I were her and I became leader of the opposition, I would make Peter David my deputy, because that would be a way of cementing a role for him going forward. If she does not become leader of the opposition on Tuesday, it's Tuesday next week. I think Parliament is meeting.
No, tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Well, but there we go. So we'll soon know. If she doesn't become leader of the opposition tomorrow, and I imagine that the Governor General should have heard by now, if she would have. So the fact that nothing has been said means that she's probably going to go in as a regular member. To be honest, if she goes into Parliament in the same place as she was last week when she was a regular member, I think that people are going to see through it and understand that what you're really seeing is a game, and it's not a serious take of power by Emilyn Pierre, and I think that she has to grow in that regard.
Kim.
Yeah, well, for me, I laugh when Peter spoke about his namesake, Peter David, and Emilyn pulling together, coming together, and uniting and moving forward. Look, Peter is more or less a reject, and we have to face it. The NNP rejected Peter David. They treated Peter David like trash politically. And don't matter how much shame plate Peter may have, the Grenadian people, like it or not, the Grenadian people love somebody who could stand up and be firm. Peter David took all the insults, all the embarrassment from Keith Mitchell and all of them within that party. They treated him like dirt. And Grenadians will not forgive Peter David, right? They would not forgive Peter David if he decides to go and lick up that vomit, all the insults and all the embarrassment that he got, and go back and cozy up with Emilyn Pierre and any of them in the NNP. In fact, people will see the thing as not being genuine. It is just a marriage for convenience. Grenadians have already concluded this guy's out. And the best thing Peter David can do is to resign from NNP. Get out. He's not. He don't belong there. They treated him like dirt. But not only that, when in Grenada, Grenadians have moved on from NNP, and they're rubbish. Most of the people in Grenada, they're young, they're smart, they're intelligent, they understand what's going down. They're not going back. They're moving forward. And that is significant. You go wrong, you touch base in Grenada. They don't want to go back to the era of Keith Mitchell and NNP right now. If you see the NNP, you still see Keith Mitchell, Gregory Bowen, Roland Bola, Garaway, Lorena Waldron, all the old fellas, they're still there. They're the face of the NNP. From the chairman go all the way down. Emilyn Pierre is just what? A shadow, or she's just a puppet on a string? That's what it is. Emilyn Pierre is a nobody in politics in Grenada. Let's face it, I'm very frank. She's a nobody in politics in Grenada. Yes, she won her seat, but that's it. She doesn't have an appeal beyond that. Again, I go back to what really Emilyn Pierre achieved and accomplished in her 20 years or so in the politics of Grenada. I ask the same thing for Peter David. What really they accomplished? And then you ask me about Deacon Mitchell and what he accomplished. Well, he was a successful corporate lawyer. He invested in his in his constituency and community in many different ways. He's not the guy to come outside there and say, well, I gave money to this school, I gave money to this organization, I was involved in this, I helped with this, I helped that. No. But he was instrumental. But he was not in the politics. And that's the difference. He was not there for 20 years in the politics. He was not there for 10 years in the politics. I was referring to those individuals being in the politics, having experienced government and having experienced opposition. So they should have some things to show. What do they have to show? And that is what I was referring to earlier. That's my take.
All right, guys. You're watching Ride Along Live, and we're also live on Kim's platform on the radio. Big up to the folks in Carriacou that's checking us out. Kim the King and everyone there in Carriacou. Thanks for watching. Thanks, because I know you guys are listening.
Right. No, Junior, you got to correct this. Vibes FM.
Vibes FM, not only in Carriacou.
Hold on. Vibes FM 101.3.
Yes.
Is for Carriacou and PT Martinique and parts of St. Andrew.
Yes.
Vibes FM 106.3 covers the entire country, Grenada. It is one of the more powerful stations in Grenada at this point in time, particularly post-Beryl. So it's important that you mentioned it's not just CARICOM.
Absolutely. Thanks for that correction. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being a part of our program, guys. We got some final closing words, but I got to take a quick commercial break. We haven't done so for a long time. Let's do that right now. Come back with some conclusion right here on the program. We'll be right back. You're watching RideAlong Live.
Looking for the ultimate island experience? Hop on the Ride Tuk Tuk Rum Punch Tour and explore Grenada like never before. Feel the tropical breeze, sip on authentic Caribbean rum punch, and cruise through Grenada's stunning scenery in our unique and fun tuk-tuks. It's the perfect blend of adventure and island flavor. Book your unforgettable tour now at ride.gd or call 473-422-1011. Don't just see Grenada, experience it with Ride Tuk Tuk Rum Punch Tours today.
It's time to do better. Beacon's Be Better Group Health Plan now offers new and improved options that make health insurance affordable for small to medium businesses. Good medical cover gives you a competitive edge and takes care of the people that take care of your business. Get a better plan to build a better business. Call Beacon or log on to beacon.co.tt for more info today.
And welcome back, guys. We are, wow, nice. You guys stuck around for a long time, boy. You guys, that's a long pants conversation. And we could probably go on for all night, but I know Peter Wickham it's Wednesday where he is at right now. I want to respect his time for coming and joining us here on this great conversation. Peter, let's go to some closing remarks now, right? In closing, advice to the political heads. What would you recommend that the NDC do at the... Oh, sorry, I have a caller. Before I ask that question, let me respect this caller. They've been holding for so long. Let me give them a chance. Sorry. Caller, you live? Are you still there? Hello, caller on the phone line? The caller hung up. I'm sorry. The caller hung up. They was waiting for so long. Peter, yes. So if you were... I know you don't give, well, I don't know if you give free advice, but this is the opportunity to talk to the political heads there in Grenada. What the NDC need to do to maintain or to at least keep that strength? And what advice would you also give to the NNP, the NDC and the NNP at this point in time? Hold on. I think go ahead, Peter. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, it's funny because I did a program on GBN recently, and the same question was asked in terms of what I would say to both political parties. I would say to Prime Minister Mitchell, keep doing what you're doing, because right now government is being given to you, and if someone gives you a gift, why should you refuse it? So I think that he's in a pretty good position now where he is being offered. And while, as I said, I don't know that there has been 6s or 4s, but he can continue to poke away, and he will get to a second term. And I think that that's a significant thing, because there haven't been a whole lot of people who have led the NDC that have been able to say that. So I think that he has a good future ahead of him, and it's a young person as well. So that part is easy. The more challenging one is within the context of the NNP. And let's face it, that the challenge right now in Grenada is with the NNP. And that is really where everyone is looking to see what can be done and what will be done. And I think that the next election, or certainly what happens before the next election, will have a lot to do with how the next few weeks are managed. I made some comments just now about Emilyn Pierre. And my thing is that if we agree that she has been legitimately selected as leader of the NNP, we have to wait to see what she's worth. And if I were her, I would want to take control of the opposition. I would make some clear decisions in terms of trying to build unity within the party. Apparently, in her acceptance speech, she indicated that party unity would be critically important. So that would be my advice to her. My advice to Peter David would be to just hold on, because in the final analysis, he's at his age, he doesn't have a whole lot to lose. And my concern is that he finds it attractive to be destructive. And I think that the loser in all of this would be the NNP. So we need to wait to see how the next few weeks work out. Politics is an evolving game, and the strategy that I outlined now or the ideas I outlined now may very well change tomorrow. So we have to wait and see. But thanks for inviting me on the program. My apologies that I wasn't able to be with you yesterday, and I'm happy that I was able. And it was good to be having a conversation with Kem as well, who clearly has different ideas to me, but nonetheless, we should let all ideas contend in these kinds of conversations. I do think that when it comes down to it, we have to have conversations that allow the politics of the Caribbean to grow. And Grenada has always had a very unique politics. It's always been very lopsided, and I think it's unique. And I think that we are fortunate to be eyewitnesses to history now, where it's growing in a way that it hasn't in a long time. And I think it's been fascinating to watch. And I am closely monitoring and chronicling the developments in Grenada as time passes from an objective perspective.
Thank you, dear. Peter Wickham. Kem, your closing words, sir.
Well, I want to say good morning to Peter. I didn't realize that he was in a different time zone.
Yeah.
You said that earlier, and I was somewhat shocked. And it shows his commitment to having a dialogue that would eventually empower others. And yes, we can disagree on many different things, but at the end of the day, once you can sacrifice your peace, your time, to educate, to empower, to enlighten, to motivate, just to share, it's a good thing, and I commend him for that. What I can say is that I love what is happening in Grenada. Even before the drama, the mess, the infighting, the confusion within the NNP, and the serious instability, prolonged instability, and that will continue for a very long time, the NDC was in a very good place. Our beloved Prime Minister, he continues to deliver on the promises he made to the electorate, continues to, I may even add, surpass expectation in terms of delivery, and people are happy. The different demographics in the country, they're happy. Things are happening for people. Our economy continues to grow. Our people are receiving things that are life-changing. You're talking about communities who, and I may use some figures here. The NNP left 8,715 people still using peat latrines in Grenada and without pipe-borne water. The NDC came into power under the most honorable Deacon Mitchell and started the WASH program, giving them the dignity back, a modern bathroom and toilet facility with running water. And that is significant. That's life-changing. That's transformative. You're talking about 4,000 plus public officers who are on contract under the NNP, vote 340, contract for service. Now these people, they are given a new pension plan, a new plan, so that they can retire, not back into poverty, but they can go home with something, from the employer. Yes, it's contributory, 3% from government, 3% from the employee, but the government is making good on their promise to provide a pension for these people. You're talking about almost 4,000 families will be impacted. So, and we can go on and on. At the end of the day, the government continues to demonstrate that they care about people and that they will transform Grenada, Carriacou, and PT Martinique. And they want everybody on board, right? Everybody on board, man. And we just pray and hope that the opposition can come to that place where they don't see themselves just only as opposing everything, but sometimes they can commend and applaud the good things that are happening. You can criticize those that you believe is bad. Nothing wrong with that, but we want some kind of constructive opposition to be around here. Thank you. Junior, being on the program with my good brother there, and it's always a pleasure being on your program.
Thank you so much, Kem. Thank you so much, Peter Wickham. We appreciate you both chatting with us. Guys, this has been another Ride Along live for today. I got to thank you guys because you guys stayed up for 2 hours and listened to this conversation. Over YouTube, Facebook combined, over 1,600 of you guys on the live, and that's commendable. It goes to show that you're interested in important conversation where we get both sides of argument at every interval. That is what we are here for, to hear from everyone. I know sometimes we may have conversation and some people may object to us having a conversation, or you may object, or you don't think that that person should be the person that we're speaking with. But hear me out on this, right? We sincerely believe that every person should have a story to tell. So it may not be who you want to hear, it may not be who you like to see, but at the end of the day, right, we have to wait out. We have to give everybody an opportunity to share their point of view. It makes the argument stronger, right? And we are one of the only platform, one of many who don't who stick to that criteria from day one, hearing both sides of each argument. Although some people may not choose to come on this platform, I think that it's a major loss for them. They are missing out on the huge audience that we bring here on RideAlong Live. That's their loss, and probably sooner than later they'll recognize and they'll see that they are doing themselves, and their association or affiliation or institution or political organization and injustice not appearing in programs where they're not just speaking to the base. Some people like to speak to their base all the time. You know what I mean? They just want to talk to the people who would yes man them, right? And they would see that this is not the way that you go about it. Politics is about addition and multiplication. You could increase on your base, not subtraction, not the division, right? And I hope a lot of the politicians and then political heads are listening. Increase on your base, not decrease on your base, right? Also, let me say this, that I said in a vlog yesterday that I did, all right? At the end of the day, I believe that every person, every political organization, every person that went up head to head, they actually got exactly what they wanted and what to be expected. There was no surprises. Of course, Emilyn Pierre was selected, and you guys saw on the vlog, I spoke about it. Dr. Mitchell, he got what he wanted. He wanted Emilyn Pierre, and everyone that he possibly selected got what they wanted. You know, it was a selection process, and everyone was selected to do their job. At the same time, I think NDC and supporters of the NDC, they were happy too. They came out as winners because they wanted Emilyn Pierre to be at the helm, because they see Emilyn Pierre as the weaker of the two, right? So they got what they want. So everybody won. Everybody won. And Grenada, I think if Grenada and political parties construct themselves, as Andrew Holness said, as strong democratic organization, it means that Grenada will win at the end of the day. Because I believe that government should have an opposition. I believe that government should and always have an opposition. It keeps them stronger. It keeps them on their toes. Yeah? So we want to see a strong opposition, regardless of who is at the helm, the executive of government. My point of view. Guys, as I said earlier, this program is brought to you with the kind compliments of the GTA, Grenada Tourism Authority, and we're inviting everyone to come down to Grenada. Grenada is a beautiful place, peaceful place. Tourist cruise ships upon tourist cruise ships, hotels it's just amazing. It's magnificent. And GTA is doing an amazing job in promoting the brand, Pure Grenada.
What if you had a choice? A choice of joining a line or a choice of making your purchases online? What would you choose? While you ponder on that, the National Lotteries Authority has provided another purchasing option. All their games are now available online. Yes, Grenadians! From wherever you are, purchase your favorite daily and jackpot type games using any electronic device. Register on the NLA's website at www.nla.gd. Top up your account and enjoy online lottery gaming at your convenience. We're taking shopping comfort up several notches. But the choice is yours. Join a line or buy online. NLA, make your dreams come true.
Yeah, 1, 2. All right. Somebody said check my audio, so I thought I was mute. Now you guys could hear me. All right, good. Guys, we're telling you about Ride excursions and tours and Ride this weekend, guys. I'm inviting you to do something good for the person that you're with. Your husband, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, whatever it is. Give them a tuk-tuk experience. How about that? Yes, man, give them a tuk-tuk experience. What that means, listen, the tuk-tuk would pick you up from where you are, from your home or wherever. It would take you out. The experienced driver would take you out to wherever you want to go, to the bar, to the beach, wherever. Wherever. They would even give you some rum punch and drinks and niceness. Yes? And then it would take you back home. What a more fun date than that? Book your tuk-tuk experience right now at ride.gd. That's RYDE.gd. Book now or call 473-422-1011. That's 473-422-1011. It's Ride Tuk-Tuk. And listen, guys, here's what I'll do for you. If you book tonight, but you have to call. If you call tonight and book for your next tuk-tuk experience, I'm going to give you 10% off your booking.
Feel the beat, feel the vibe. Amazing host leading the ride.
You know what? You have to call right now. You have to call tonight, right? If you don't call tonight, you ain't getting 10%. You have to call tonight and book your tuk-tuk experience for this weekend.
Together.
You got to call 422. Write the number down. Put it on your fridge. 422-1011. And just say, I want the tucking thing. Just give me the tucking thing I heard Junior talking about. If you don't remember, just say, give me the tucking thing.
G high, heart so bright.
And here, I'll make it even more interesting. You have 10 minutes to call. 473-422-1011. Just call and say, whoever answers the phone, say, I'm calling for the tucking thing. I'm calling for it.
RideAlong live.
473-422-1011. That's the number that you call and book for your tucking experience tonight. We ain't even have to tell your lover that you're doing it for him or her.
Energy high, heart so bright. Tune in.
While you're at it, we have the donut boat, the donut boat.
Making waves across the sea.
So you could get on the donut boat and have an excursion like you never had before. You can go snorkeling and scuba, real vibes on the donut boat. Ride gives you everything. So we have tuk-tuk, and we ain't done yet.
From island to island, strong with the host, we belong.
We ain't even tell you about the e-bike yet. There's so much things to do in Grenada. It is amazing. And don't forget, if you're flying, you got to fly with who? JetBlue, taking you to Grenada.
RideAlong live, worldwide. Feel the beat, feel the vibe. Amazing host leading the ride. Power to the people we shine. Giving fans what they need. Caribbean spirit, let's succeed.
Absolutely.
Every show with a good deed.
Get your experience. We have the e-bike, we have the tuk-tuk, and we have the boats.
Ride along.
Let's do this weekend. Yes, guys. In this week, probably tomorrow, we're gonna have some money giveaway. We're giving away some money, some cash, some pesos, right for Christmas. I know some of you guys, RideAlong do this every year. So we're gonna do the spin the wheel this week. Put all the names on the wheel. We'll spin the wheel. We get some money, some shopping spree. All right, sounds good. Sounds good to me.
making waves across the seas.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
Ride along live if you please.
It's a night experience when you book with Ride. Call now.
Ride along,
Go online. It's ride.gd.
sing the song. From island to island, strong with the host, we belong. Energy high, heart so bright. Tune in, feel the light. Global love taking flight. Every ride is sheer delight, making waves across the seas. Love and joy in the breeze. Ride along live if you please.
Thank you guys for watching. Thanks for being a part of our program.
Ride along.
And don't forget, if you want to advertise on Ride Along Live, please do give us a call.
From island to island,
Catch you guys again tomorrow. Good night.
we belong.
This is the one you've been waiting for. Tuesday, December 31st. Old Year's Night from 10 p.m. Grenada. Get ready to
Shine bright like a diamond.
as Megapost Promotions present the most anticipated event of the year. Enchanted, the Diamond Edition.
Diamonds are forever.
The Ariza car park will be transformed into a sea of diamonds as we welcome Trinidad's #1 band, the A-Team Band, together with Sakina and the Alpha One Band, also featuring Black Adam and Mr. Golden. Your DJs, Just Gus, Graphics, Sound, and Kingpin, dressed to impress because there's a special prize for the best dressed male and female. Lovely display of fireworks to welcome 2025. Get your early bird tickets now for $140. VIP $450. Cabanas are also available. Call to book yours. Grenada, the wait is over. Old Year's Night. Get ready for Enchanted, the Diamond Edition. Brought to you by Mega.
Hi, I'm Eddie, and I would like to welcome you to Face Off the Return. I'm here at the Prickly Bay Marina, where Face Off will be held on December 21st. If you don't know, Face Off has been the premier masquerade party for almost 20 years. I would like to offer you an official invitation to join me and all Grenadians that have enjoyed Face Off over the years for a fun-filled event. There's nothing else like it. No one can duplicate it. Face Off the Return. Remember, you must wear black and you get your mask on entry. You can get tickets at Grenadian Optical, Headers Boutique, and Go to Fifth. I hope to see you at Face Off the Return on December 21st, and you must wear black.
Looking for the ultimate island experience? Hop on the Ride Tuk Tuk Rum Punch Tour and explore Grenada like never before. Feel the tropical breeze, sip on authentic Caribbean rum punch, and cruise through Grenada's stunning scenery in our unique and fun tuk-tuks. It's the perfect blend of adventure and island flavor. Book your unforgettable tour now at ride.gd or call 473-422-1011. Don't just see Grenada, experience it with Ride Tuk Tuk Rum Punch Tours today.
Feel the beat. Ride along live, worldwide. Feel the beat, feel the vibe. Amazing host leading the ride. Power to the people, we shine. Giving fans what they need. Caribbean spirit, let's succeed. Every show with